Hi, Halloween 2011. Carter and I had a neat prop this year. We just see it in the other video in action, but it's kind of dark out there, so it's kind of hard to see what's going on. And we thought we would make a little video to explain what we did. Okay, this is our this is up in the control room. This is a little control box that just switches, and with a 12-volt power supply going into here, and some of these switches go both ways. The lights tell us what it's not plugged in right now, obviously, and some of the switches are just on-off switches. This is the master switch, turn the whole thing on and off. So the 12-volt control goes through all of this wire down here to the box, the business end of this box. And if you can come on over here, show these wires. And these 12-volt wires come in just to these terminals. That makes it a little easier to do the hookup. And then these are 12-volt relays. Also coming into this is 110 volts. Okay. We need 110 volts because some of our props need 110, but we didn't want to have the 110 go all the way up to the control room. And operates these relays, which gives 110 volts to these 5 valves and to this outlet, which we didn't use this year. But these are from washing machines. They're the valves that come from let the water in. And when you turn a valve on, it lets air in from our air supply here into the valve and out here to go to the action that we want it to do. This is just a tank that we made to give us a local ready supply of air, but it's continuously hooked up here from a hose running from the basement where the compressor is. So the noisy compressor is locked way down in the basement, but it takes but this gives us a reserve of air so it can operate quickly. A little valve here to tell us what operating range we're in, and we happened to find this on eBay, and it was, 30 is about where we operated. Okay, so so from upstairs, we're flipping the switches, it's operating these valves, and of course, we have to keep a cover on this thing, because there's 110 volts in there. Okay, don't want any of our trick-or-treaters to trip on it, get shocked. This was the wire, if you see the other video, this was the wire that was the red eyes of our dummy in there, but that's just 12 volts. So these 4 hoses are supplying air to the 4 cylinders we used this year. Last year we had 5 air things. We had an air horn on one of these. So this is the cylinder which lifts the lid, and I'll just lift the lid manually since this isn't hooked up. We had this attached to the ground with a landscape spike. So up goes the lid like that with this piston would push it. Okay. Now that's kind of heavy, and it was a little more than we could do with this, so we had a counterweight on that lid. The counterweight was, we had a 60-pound fishing line attached here that went up to a tree overhead. This line went up through some pulleys, and at the other end, over by the tree where you couldn't see it, there was a plastic jug with water in it that we could, it was our counterweight. So now we had a counterweight, it was easy to raise, but that meant we had to push it back down. So that was our second cylinder. That's this cylinder right here. This cylinder here was the push down cylinder, and it's not attached right now. But this string was attached here, and when this cylinder would operate, it would pull on this string. Of course, this would have been, at that point, it's in the upright position, and it served to pull. Let me push that back up so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so if it's up, this string would have been extended. And then when we operated this cylinder here, it pulled on that string and pulled that down. Okay, so it did, and it also did another thing. This is a pressure relief valve that allows the 2 cylinders to operate against each other. So when this operates in one direction or the other, and there's a hose here. If you go back, trace this back, there's a T here. So, and this is the air coming in. So the air pressure coming into this thing to operate, it would operate it here, but it would also go here, and as long as this was in this position, you would have pressure, this position rather, you'd have pressure here, and so this valve could operate. But in that position, it opened on the other side. That's going likewise to a connection of the other cylinder to relieve the air pressure there. So the 2 cylinders weren't trying to have pressure both at the same time. You got one or the other. So that what happened is, the way it worked, when this came back, being dragged back, when this one was being dragged back, which is when the lid was opening, it would, like that, that would then relieve the pressure of the cylinder that opened, and then when it came to the other end, just the difference in pressure efficiency of the cylinder, it went the other way. But anyway, long story. Enough of that. Okay, so inside. How'd the inside work? Okay, so we had the dummy. You can see this in person, not so well on the video. If you can see, he's got his hand here. It looked pretty good, it looked like he was in fact pushing the coffin up, and his hand was sticking out here. You can see that in the video pretty clearly, I think. I'm going to go ahead and tear this apart because we're taking it apart now anyway, and show you what's underneath. So we just stapled this costume in place. And okay, so what we had here, the dummy was basically just this piece of plywood on this pivot. You can see that pivot there, okay? So that was him sitting up. So for him to sit up, can you come around this side, Carter?
Yeah. Sure.
For him to sit up, there's a cylinder underneath here, this cylinder, which raised him up. Oops. Okay.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
This cylinder raised him up, and that's the air coming in. Oh no, the air coming into that cylinder right down there below. That's what raised him up. Okay, and this string was to limit the motion so that otherwise the cylinder tended to pop apart. Okay, and when he popped up, his head turned, which was like the neatest effect. And I'll show you that effect here since we're taking this apart anyway. Okay, so here's the dummy. It's just the head. Put your light up here so we can see what's going on.
Hold on.
Oh, you're out of cord?
Yeah.
Oops, jeez. It's okay.
We got it.
It's still working?
Yeah.
It's still running. And it's still ticking. Okay. All right. All right, you got that?
Yeah.
Okay, we're filming this on an iPod, and we're not sure we can pause without starting the second video, so we're trying to do it easily. Anyway, there's the two LEDs, which were his eyes. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this was attached to a cylinder, which had built into it a spiral, which, there's the spiral, and when the cylinder came up, it twisted 90 degrees, okay? This rubber band's here just to pull it back down. So we'd operate the cylinder that pushed it up, but the more dramatic effect, of course, was that it turned his head 90 degrees. So this was accomplished by, before we put the two cylinders together, just took the one pipe and had drawn a line in this shape and drilled a hole straight through both sides, turned a little bit, just drilled a bunch of holes, and each hole went straight through. So there are two holes 180 degrees apart. You can see the back looks just the same. Oops. You can see, there you can see it back here. And so with that series of holes, then we just took a file and smoothed that out so that you had a nice smooth thing operating there. If you can see here, that's one on the other side. So, okay, that's how that worked. And is that about it? Is that about it? What else are we going to show?
That's bad.
Oh.
I mean, it's got eyes.
And the smoke.
Yeah.
The smoke, there's a hole there. What we did was we took a vacuum cleaner hose, a very flexible vacuum cleaner hose, and we attached it to our smoke machine. And it was outside there, but then the hose that came into here. It was very effective to have the smoke right at the guy's head, and especially with those bright LEDs. It really lit the smoke up, as you can see on the video.
It would fill the coffin with smoke.
Oh yeah, and another thing you couldn't see on the video, I don't think, was that a lot of that smoke was coming out out through the poorly fitting bite. And intentionally made this look like a sloppy coffin on purpose.
Yeah.
And the smoke came out that way. Oh, I know. A couple of other little details. Notice there's no bottom in the coffin. This was just cheap with material, but the basic shape of the coffin was controlled by the way we made these corner pieces, and just used nails and screws to hold it together. Okay, Carter, we got here. This will certainly go viral on YouTube.
Oh,
a couple of seconds, turn it around. There's Carter.
All right.
Great fun, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.